Alright guys, so Pokimane has just responded on Twitter and she said, reply, Fed, with a link to a brand new Google Doc that she has written out, basically pulling an Uno reverse card. This information just keeps popping up, so I wanted to just get onto it fast and record a video. She posted this on her second Twitter account, but it's already getting a lot of traction. It's got 24.8 thousand likes. It's got a whole bunch of retweets and a whole bunch of comments. Here's a reply from Tumad.
Bruh. Ranch. Bruh. Orange. Bruh.
Pokimane responds to this tweet with, bruh. Ithia F replies, this shit is so cringe, what the f? I'm a f***ing teen and I'm far from being at this level of stupidness. I can't believe this drama is actually adult drama, holy f. Relub's Corpse and Jody replies, y'all saying you're not reading all that, but willing to read Fed's one. Just say you hate when women say their POV and go. That's not exactly a great take, but okay. So as you can see, the response is kind of mixed at the moment. It'll be interesting to see where it leads to in the future or if this is the end. Also, last time, a lot of you guys said you wanted me to read the full document, and luckily this one's only 11 pages, so without further ado, let's get started. Intro. I've talked about my experience with Fed in the past, and I'm really disappointed that leaked and misleading messages have made it necessary for me to respond once again. I feel forced to share my side of the story, now with evidence and context, to hopefully close this chapter once and for all. Knowing how much it hurts to have private convos leaked, I didn't want it to have to come to sharing more info that is also private to Fed and my friends involved. Out of respect to their privacy, I'll only be talking about some of the things that were already shared and what my friends are comfortable with. The leak. I found out about this document weeks ago because one of Fed's viewers DM'd one of the OfflineTV members with a link to it. Technically, a prior version of it. There was no update at the bottom / certain private texts were not in the document I saw. I was horrified that a viewer of his had such private messages of mine, and I immediately contacted Fed. We spent a couple of days talking things through and coming to an understanding of how to handle things. I also informed him how the document was shared with me, so he was well aware of the specific person who was doing this. Over the next few weeks, I would have my close friends and other streamers message me and tell me they were also sent this document, sometimes from Fed, sometimes from Fed's viewers. Every time my privacy was further violated, I would tell Fed, and he would tell me he'd speak to his viewer and have the Google Docs deleted. It kept happening multiple times afterward, making it hard for me to believe that he didn't want this to be shared. Well, that kind of sheds some new light on the whole situation. Apparently Fed has been working on this for a long time, and it's been leaked several times, all the way to Pokimane, and she's contacted him and told him, hey, like, this keeps getting out, what are you going to do about it? And Fed says he's going to delete it. So that kind of provides some more context if that's all true. Yvonne and OfflineTV. I'd like to give my context to the messages he included of me talking about Yvonne, since the leaked documents attempted to imply that I was plotting against her, when this was not the case at all. I'm really disappointed that he would try to publicly pit us against each other, especially since he knows us personally and the reality of the situation, on top of what he already put Yvonne through. This situation is also heavily impacted by the fact that Fed touched Yvonne inappropriately, which is something that OTV members weren't aware of until later. Please keep this in mind when reading the screenshots involving other house members, because they didn't know and have done everything in their power to help Yvonne since they found out. Because I was so close to Fed, he would rant or vent to me about others a lot. Yvonne was a sore topic for him when he would continuously complain about her. He would complain that he was taking on her workload and that she would deny his attempts to get her to do work on OfflineTV and stream instead. Looking back at this now, no one can blame Yvonne for wanting to avoid him, but no one knew what Fed did at the time. I've included an example of this below. This first screenshot reads from Fed. Goes into Yvonne's room. Yo, let's think of a prank / content idea since Lily and Albie are out. Immediately gets into a game of League. Smiley face. Pokey responds with a face. I leave, and she says, hey, you gonna think of something, right? And I'm just like, yeah. Pokimane responds with another face. Tell her, what'd you think? Alright. The next screenshot says, I'll do that now. Wow, I was surprised. I asked her when her game was done and if she could come upstairs and brainstorm OTV stuff. She gave me this face. I want to keep playing. I gave her a long stare and then just walked out. I don't know. The next screenshot says, I'm out here whiteboarding shit. Pokimane responds with a frowny face. I'll join you when I get kicked. You should tell her it's kind of part of her job though. You know I hate confrontation. It's fine though. When you think about it, I don't realistically think she can contribute much, but it's nice to have a human around. Wow, okay, so this kind of adds context to the entire situation. If this actually happened after Fed inappropriately touched Yvonne, then it would make complete sense why she wouldn't be willing to work with Fed or be uncomfortable around him, which is something that Fed apparently left out of his Google Docs. These texts were from May 25th, 2019, whereas Fed has shared screenshots of things I parroted about Yvonne months later on October 5th, 2019. Well, there you go. I was the only person that Fed would vent to about Yvonne, although I repeatedly heard the same thing from him throughout those months. He would also go to other house members to complain multiple times over, which ultimately led to the point of OTV having a meeting to discuss everything. The below texts were after the meeting and showcased that this topic stemmed from Fed bringing up issues about Yvonne. Here's another screenshot between Poki and Fed, and it says, "LOL, I talked to Toast before the meeting, and we agreed that we should only bring up the Yvonne thing if we really considering a new third roommate, but I'm kinda glad." Oh, I didn't know, plus it kinda came up in an okay way, I think. You guys segmented into that. My bad. Yeah. No, I'm actually glad. I was like, why isn't Fed bringing it up? LOL. Haha, yeah, it was prob better this way, to be honest. It came from me. She would feel, I don't know, different because of our relationship. But all good. Cat's out of the bag. Makes sense. It did come up pretty organically. I was surprised Skara had so much to say. I think I talked about it with Skara the most out of everyone. Whoa. I had no clue. This next screenshot, Poki adds some more context, saying that this message, I think I talked about it with Skara, is basically saying that Fed complained to other OTV members about Yvonne. As you can see, there were other members of OTV that were speaking up on behalf of Fed, as it was genuinely because we were under the impression from Fed that there was a problem that needed fixing. At this point in time, no one else in the OTV house had the context that Fed had touched her inappropriately. There was a different set of texts which show my concern for the lack of work being put into OTV during the beginning of quarantine. At that time, everyone in the house, including Fed, the content lead, and Yvonne, the house manager, was very focused on streaming, and I was worried OTV was being left on the back burner. To contextualize my concerns, OTV has a history of hiring core employees that later become content creators. Fed, Chris, Pekka, Edison, etc. And I'm genuinely happy for those people who are inspired to create content and are successful. For the overall sake of the OTV company, there are very important roles that need dedication in order for the overall group to function and be consistent. This is why I was worried this issue would repeat itself to the point Yvonne would no longer want to work at OTV. That kind of makes sense in Poki's argument. She's basically saying that there are roles and we hired Yvonne for a specific role, so if she just kind of shifts over to becoming a content creator and then is no longer like doing her job that she was hired, it can be kind of frustrating. I guess I can kind of understand that. In Fed's document, he claims he told me what happened between them, but Fed also told Yvonne, and Yvonne shared this in her statement in Dr. K Talk, that he didn't remember what happened. I wanted to make it clear that I did not have full awareness of what Fed did to Yvonne during any of the text incidents shown. It was briefly mentioned to me in late 2019, first by Yvonne, then by Fed, that there was an uncomfortable incident that happened between them, but no details were shared with me. I had no clue of the severity or extent of this situation until much later. I learned of the full situation when she publicly spoke to Dr. K and privately in a heartfelt talk with our girlfriends. In my initial stream discussing Fed, I was extremely frustrated because I had just found out what fully happened to Yvonne, and to think back at the times he complained to me about her and I blindly believed him made me livid. The same complaints that almost caused her to be let go from OTV. Even more so than that, I'm frustrated with myself for not speaking to Yvonne and understanding her earlier. Given the context that I have now of what Fed had done to her, of course, I would have never said those things or wanted her fired. Anyone in her position would have reacted the same way in an attempt to avoid someone who has touched them inappropriately. Now, when Poki says touched her inappropriately, I just want to stress that what Fed did, it wasn't like touching her lady parts exactly, but he laid down in bed next to her when he was drunk, came into her room, which is something that he had been doing a lot apparently, and he held her hand, he gave her a kiss on the hand, and then apparently he touched the side of her chest. Not like her boobs or anything, but just enough to make her uncomfortable, which is still wrong. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying Fed was right. Absolutely not. I'm just providing context of what Poki means when she says touched inappropriately, because that's such a broad thing to say. Since then, Yvonne and I have talked in private about what I've said and came to a relieving understanding after an apology from my end. I regret the added stress we put her through. I'm so sorry to Yvonne and everyone who read my messages with Fed that may have questioned her or her work ethic. I hired Yvonne to work with me back in 2018, knowing that she was smart, thoughtful, and an overall pleasure to work with. I then personally recommended her for an in-house position at OTV and was looking forward to working with her in person. She has grown into her role at OTV and as a content creator as well, and I'm really grateful for her and everything she's done for us. Fed was my closest friend for a long time. During the OTV Taiwan trip in February 2018, we became closer and considered pursuing a relationship. This is where a lot of the flirty texts shown in Fed's document are from. A couple months later, after he visited me in Canada and when we traveled back home together, I told him I didn't want to be anything more than friends, around May 2018. Weeks later, OTV held a party where I expressed interest in meeting a specific person, later referred to as Steve. After the party, Steve confided in me that Fed told him that Fed and I currently had a thing, and asked Steve not to tell anyone. This really upset me and felt like a massive breach of trust, especially since it happened after I told Fed I only wanted to be friends. Whoa, okay, that's kind of funked up according to Poki. If she already told him that she just wanted to be friends, then it doesn't really make any sense for Fed to try to sabotage anything going on with her and Steve. I confronted Fed about this immediately, and he apologized. Also, prior to my stream where I spoke about Yvonne and Lily's situation with Fed, I messaged him to give him a heads up, and he specifically asked me not to bring it up to the public. 1, he also admitted to this mistake when speaking to my best friend Janet after the intervention. And 2, this is why it's so difficult for me to believe him when he's just now, years after the incident and months after it became public, attempts to deny it. Here's another screenshot that says, "Thanks, I really appreciate that. Is there anything that you would really want me to leave out? I don't know if I can accommodate, but I also don't want to make things terribly difficult for you. I won't mention the blank or super personal details, mainly some lies and instances where people felt manipulated. If you can find it in you to leave out telling blank that you and we were a thing, it's something I would just not like mentioned, but I understand if not. Otherwise, I trust you, and I think doing what's best for Lily and Yvonne's comfort is the right play." Poki responds with, "I'm sorry, I can't leave that out because it's the best/easiest example I can give of lying." Here's a screenshot from Janet saying, "Hi Fed, yeah, a little bit. Don't know the details, just that there was an intervention. How are you doing?" And he said, "Well, pretty bad. Got a minute to talk? I can give you all the details." So then we called, and he told me about what I thought was everything. He told me about him and the Steve situation with you. He said he lied a lot. And here, Poki adds context saying he admitted to Janet that he lied to Steve in this message. Fed has been known to be a serial flirt. This is brought up several times in an intervention we held for Fed, where several girls in our close friends circle spoke on the situations where he crossed boundaries or made them uncomfortable. The girls at the intervention were all okay with this info being shared. For a long time, we all thought his flirtatious tendencies were just innocent and natural part of who he was. I admit and take responsibility for the times I later reciprocated, and the ways in which this could have complicated our friendship. I would also constantly hear of the ways in which he flirted with other girls and his ships, and often saw it on the stream as well, which made any reciprocation feel casual and insignificant. It may have been naive, but it was far from how he's attempting to portray me. I tried to be transparent about who I was seeing, in a conscious effort to be open and not lead him on, which I now realize struck Fed as hurtful. I understand it must have been tough to move on from someone you live with, but I figured it was better that I was upfront and to hear it directly from me instead of hiding it, especially when I would frequently hear of and witness him flirting with and pursuing other girls, even my close friends. Whoa. Fed also has a habit of sleeping in the girls' beds, Lily's, Yvonne's, and mine. OTV viewers might remember this because it was something we all spoke of as an odd habit, and we thought the sleepovers were strange, but harmless and just for fun. Fed clearly enjoys the comfort and intimacy he could find in his friendships with many girls, and I was no exception. Unfortunately, he also has a habit of pushing that boundary not only with me, but with other girls as well, which was difficult for us to properly manage while considering the larger friendship circle and dynamic. Our friendship was complicated and confusing, and there were times where we unintentionally hurt each other. Would it have been possible to cut things off completely? Fed was my closest friend at the time, my roommate and my coworker talent at OTV. Anytime I tried to reinforce that I just wanted to be friends, we were always in the same vicinity, and he would attempt to flirt and push that boundary again. There was massive pressure and encouragement for us to interact with each other on camera, streams, and vlogs. We'd also had several convos, both in real life and over text, pertaining to the complications of our friendship. As it wasn't a one-sided issue, over time I learned how to properly draw that boundary, and these issues slowly became less frequent. Fed included messages of hotel room discussions that were misleading and taken out of context. To clarify, a few of us wound up in Vegas at the same time around December 6, 2018. I was there for a sponsored event with Lily, while Fed and some other friends were there separately for fun. I messaged him and told him that we, plural as in myself and the girls, had a hotel room. I wanted for us to all stay together in this much larger room for fun, unless he wanted to stay alone so he could be at the liberty to bring any girl home with him. So, all four of us, me, Lily, Fed, and Yvonne, stayed together in Fed's room for the entirety of the Vegas trip. To reiterate, Fed and I never stayed alone. There's photo plus video proof of this, and this interaction was not intended to be romantic or suggestive, nor did anything happen between us. If anything, I feel it shows that I was encouraging him to see other people, and wanted to make sure I gave him enough space to comfortably do so. Here's a screenshot that shows again the text between Fed and Pokimane where she adds context. Okay, we, as in me and Lily, got a hotel room, but I can stay in yours, but also I can stay in mine because, you know. Poki says that this message is a reference to, I'm good to stay in the other room if he needs privacy to bring someone back to his room. Oh, okay, well now I kind of see that. But also I can stay in my room because, you know, winky winky in case you want to bring a girl home. She adds context again to this message. You sure? I really want to give you the freedom to do what you want. She says this message means, again, not wanting to get in the way of him bringing back other girls. It's no worries that we, me and Lily, have 2 beds at the other room. Okay, but this next part is like a little sus. It's the message where she said, beg for me to stay with you, and she marks that as just being a cringy joke. Like, Pokimane had a good defense, and like, she's making everything like line up really well, except for this part, it's just like, I just don't feel like it's really defensible. If you're already so far into things and telling this guy that you don't have feelings and you just want to be friends, why would you make a joke like this and tempt him when you already know that he still wants something more? Here's a picture with a caption that says, Fed wasn't in this group shot, but Yvonne and Lily can also confirm that we collectively stayed together in this room for this trip. It's extremely frustrating to see so many private and old incidents misrepresented to intentionally favor him. It's also difficult to properly show my perspective without further evading Fed's privacy or other girls' privacy. I hope that anyone reading this can try to be understanding of that. In summary, I hear a lot of hurt feelings in Fed's statement when it comes to our friendship, and I cared about Fed a lot and wouldn't have wanted to hurt him. His feelings are valid and a good reminder to me that what one person thinks may be going on in a friendship don't always match up with the other person's expectations. Looking back, I would have done a lot of things differently, and know for a fact that neither of us handled the situation perfectly. However, our private convos heavily lacked context, and I'm not okay with how they're being misrepresented. Jody. The way Fed framed my conversation with him regarding Jody is extremely one-sided. This is something that Jody and I have talked about privately weeks ago, and I've owned up to it, and apologized for the messages. Looking back at these texts, I'm ashamed of what I wrote them, and I feel terrible about the things I've said. The 2 pieces of context I'd like to provide are that, 1, earlier that day, I was under the impression that they were going on a date and was being supportive, and 2, the things I said about Jody are essentially me parroting Fed's opinion of her, which he also shared with me earlier that day. They were also a result of my perception of her being skewed and negative because of the info he gave me about how he felt exploited by her and my poor choice to believe a rumor. Okay, well, I mean, it's kind of a weak argument, but whatever. Below, I've included the conversation I had with Fed prior to what I said about Jody for more context. Please note that some of the text/names have been removed out of respect to my friend's privacy. Some text messages have also been blocked in order to not rehash unnecessary drama that has been resolved and is unrelated to me. Here's a DM between Poki and Fed. Also, let me know how your date with Jody goes. Geez, this year has been unreal for you. Haha, not going on a date with her, lol. Oh, stop. You'd be down if she was in town. Just let me know how it goes. I like the stories. Okay, sure, we'll let you know. I like the honesty. No, but for real, not remotely interested in her. In all honesty, me and Leslie and Yvonne talked about this. I feel hella exploited when we all hang out. Like, let's say Minecraft, she ignores Leslie and all the girls. Big yikes. What? That doesn't sound normal. Isn't she really close with Leslie? You can really tell she's trying to push the Fody thing. And according to Leslie, not no more. Lots of bad drama. What? So like, what kind of drama? And then Fed talks about the drama, which Poki has blurred out, as she said didn't want to rehash unnecessary drama. Aw, maybe she's just not the most considerate person. But also, you saying shit like, let's talk about going on a date if that's not really how you feel is a bit hypocritical because, of course, that pushes the Fody thing. Then with the Minecraft stuff, Leslie refuses to play with her now. We all think trying to push the Fody thing for views, and it's so obvious when we're all hanging out and she's memeing, blah blah face, and everyone else feels hella left out. But I guess long term, it'll show that they aren't friends anymore. Wow, my brain, boom. It's pretty bad. Had a group call with blankety blank about it all. Must protect my friends' feelings. I think I'm forgetting other stuff she did too. What time yo thing today, by the way? 4 to 6, I believe, and I feel ya, I would never have guessed. He told me much more, but I feel that there's no use sharing more texts of past drama, and I want to avoid doing so out of privacy and respect to my friends. The conversation ended with me being very surprised, last text shown, and my perspective of Jody being very skewed and negative out of concern for Fed saying he felt exploited. Furthermore, as the morning texts show, I was trying to be supportive and foster a friendship where we could be more open with each other and be able to talk about the people we're seeing. Later that same day, I heard Jody speaking about Fed on her stream, and having heard all these negative things about her from him, I had a very skewed perception of everything she said. Here is his reply that he intentionally left out from the screenshot, showcasing this was not a one-sided exchange and that he was encouraging it. Sounding like this emoji. I don't know, I can't stand people obviously acting more drunk than they are or saying fake pity shit to chat. Makes me gag. Anyways, That's my vent of the day. Love you. Have a good stream. Lol. Sorry for spam while you're streaming. Lols. Oop, typo. Lol. Delicious face, delicious face, delicious face. I legit tuned in for not even 3 minutes and she spoke about you twice. I was like, gotta go bye. Haha. Please continue. I love it. Ha ha ha. Proof these messages happen on the same day. And Poki shows a screenshot of her messages with a message to Fed saying Jody on stream right now talking about you, and also another one saying also let me know how your date with Jody goes. This is a very familiar pattern that I and many other friends spoke about. It's something I specifically called him out on in my first stream and directly to him at the intervention. He would spread doubt and rumors, egging people on to think negatively for each other and dividing people up. I don't know if this was intentional, but it kept others apart and Fed as their main confidant. And she leaves a link to a live stream fails clip of Leslie talking on stream about it.
Come to our house all the time, always in a bad mood, and it was always because it was like, oh, Fed's over. Stuff with Poki or OTV is like not good right now. Like that was it. He would run away. He would run away constantly. And then while he's there, he's like just spreading bad vibes about OTV, which would slowly start to push us away from them. I'd start to have these really negative thoughts about Poki. Like I really thought like, wow, like she's driving him crazy. Poor guy. Like, man, like, you know, I had all these negative thoughts about her and I apologized to her directly about like not talking to her in the moment. Instead just believing everything Fed was saying, because at the moment Fed is my close friend, you know? And so he and so if you're wondering why a lot of this stuff had to be aired publicly, and it's because that was the only way we'd see Fed change, because we had tried to address things publicly, and instantly with the intervention, he went running to all the people who weren't at the intervention, victimizing himself.
All right, so that was a pretty good point of view from Leslie and Peter. I hope the screenshots and added context show how disingenuous it was of Fed to attempt to frame this conversation of me being possessive of him. Regardless, I really regret having spoken of Jody in this way, and I'm very happy that we were able to work through it. It also taught me a valuable lesson in not only who to trust, but taking opinions with a grain of salt. Here's another Google Doc that is Jody's experience with Fed, which you guys can check out if you want. Conclusion. Ultimately, my complicated and volatile friendship with Fed had no part in why he was kicked out of OfflineTV, and such private details never needed to be public. It has been extremely jarring to have my privacy violated by someone I trusted for so long. Out of respect to my friends who are mentioned in these combos, they were all shown the text and were of course given the option to decline any combos from being included. If any parts of the convos were blocked, I have done so to maintain privacy for them and will not disclose that info. I hope this context shows my side of the story and helps put this to rest. Poki ends with a little note at the end. This is posted to my alt account because so much personal info has already been shared. I would like to clarify my side of the story and not bring additional attention to these past issues. I know many other people will probably cover what happened, but I'll be doing what I can to prevent personal matters from going public again. And that is the end of the document. So, I don't know guys, let me know what you think. Poki gives a lot of context to this whole situation and pretty much pulls an Uno reverse card on Fed. I think Fed still made a lot of decent points, but there was a lot of, I guess, misrepresentation, especially with the context given by Poki. So my feelings, honestly, I think this is just like better than Twilight. Like this is just the Twitch saga of 2020. It's like reading a book, literally. I don't know why YouTubers are using Google Docs. Why are we even doing this? Why am I making a video about this? But yeah, guys, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Hit that sub button if you want to stay up to date with all the latest drama and gossip and tea. See you there.